Hey, welcome to Crash Course US History, the real US history, not that liberal nonsense from that impersonator John Green. Today we're going to talk about the very equal gender, woman. Mr. Clean, haven't women been oppressed for all of human history? Oh, me from the past, you bumbling idiot. How do you even know women exist when your last interaction with a woman was in the womb? Speaking of wombs, women have always had the rights to their own bodies in accordance with God's plan. Let's go back to the creation of the United States, the Declaration of Independence. During the American Revolution, women largely stayed within the domestic realm and took care of the children while their husbands were courageously fighting the redcoats.
Actually, you ignorant. I was out in there providing our boys in blue with freedom water, the drink of independence. You want some freedom water?
Yeah.
Do you want some freedom water?
Yeah, sure.
If it wasn't for me and all the other women who ensured the safety of our soldiers, then America wouldn't exist today.
Maybe some women were helping our troops in the front lines, but what about all the women who stayed at home?
But with all the men gone to fight the war, women had to take care of their families and the businesses of their husbands. So really, women are heroes in their own way, fighting the war at home.
I'd like to take a minute to thank our sponsors, the Pro-Life Action League, for funding our new studio, as you can see. Back to the Revolutionary War, the role of woman continued to revolve around the idea of taking care of kids and the house. The woman in the household...
Actually, my husband John Adams was credited with creating the government, but what you all don't know was that I was there guiding him on his path to create our country. I told him to remember the ladies.
I thought men were educated enough. Why do women need education too?
That sounds a lot like the cult of domesticity, a prevailing view of women during the 1800s. It dismissed women's potential outside the home and limited them to motherly duties.
Well, that just sounds like a true woman to me. Women's rights didn't need to change throughout the 19th century, and so they didn't.
Excuse me, one of the biggest steps in women's rights movement occurred at the Seneca Falls Convention, where we exposed the injustices done against women by men, all in the name of protection.
Well, of course women needed protection. They are the weaker gender after all. They can never handle a man's job.
Handle a what? A man's job? If a man's job is so tough. I worked on the farm as a slave for years, and all these so-called strong men were complaining more than me. You see these? This is what real strength looks like. Ain't I a woman?
There is no way you're stronger than me.
What? You think I ain't stronger than you? Look at this. You can't do that here.
You know what? I think it's time for the mystery document. The rules are simple. If I guess the author of the document incorrectly, I have to divorce my cousin. As if that's ever gonna happen. Alright, let's see this. And now, at the close of 100 years, we declare our faith in the principles of self-government. We ask our rulers, at this hour, no special favors, no special privileges, blah blah blah. This one's easy, come on guys. It's obviously an American patriot celebrating the 100-year anniversary of this great nation.
Guess again, stupid.
Not you again.
It's me, and this time I brought a friend.
Yeah, I'm the one who actually read that speech, and if you kept reading it instead of disregarding it like you disregard women, you would have realized I was talking about women as citizens of the United States, which wasn't granted to us until 100 years after the establishment of our nation.
Sure, whatever you say, Miss Anthony. Anyways, during the late 1800s, women were actually oppressing us men and preventing us from having our alcohol that allowed us to be ourselves.
Excuse me? I was the leader of the Women's Christian Temperance Movement. And the only reason our movement was so important was because of men like you. We advocate for total abstinence because you men were the cause of disease, poverty, violence, and unemployment.
Jeez, always blaming us men. You were real happy with the 19th Amendment, weren't you?
Of course, us women made sure that you men were on the right path.
Not only did we make sure men were on the right path, but also our fellow immigrants and everyone else within the United States. Organizations such as My Whole House in Chicago empowered women and let them be more productive of the community through maternalism.
Fine, let's move on to the world wars. Women once again stayed in the domestic sphere and didn't participate in the war efforts, while men did all the fighting.
Actually, while we didn't directly participate in the war efforts, we guaranteed that our soldiers fought the war well. We did all the behind the scenes work. We became their nurses, we drove the trucks, we repaired airplanes. We were the reason that men were able to fight the war. We can do it.
After World War II, women started going a little crazy, and their radical ideas spread like wildfire. One example was the feminine mystique.
Bro, that book is fire. I wrote The Feminine Mystique to empower women, just like I created a national organization for women, which promoted the ideas of the Equal Rights Amendment, equal pay, and abortion rights.
Abortion? God didn't intend for women to have the ability to murder their own children.
Did you even know about Roe versus Wade? It established that women have the rights to their own bodies and their own reproductive rights. It's made abortion more accessible to women and decreased the amount of unsafe back alley abortions, which caused many deaths.
Well, it seems like Roe vs. Wade gave women all the freedom they ever needed. What's the problem now?
Well, actually, in 2019, it looks like we're moving backwards. Alabama has just passed restrictive abortion laws, which make the penalty for abortion even worse than many women's crimes. I'm fighting for the same things women were fighting for in the 60s. I want equality, and I want it now.
I can't believe a woman just pushed me. But maybe more work does need to be done after all to make everyone equal. Thanks for watching Crash Course US History. Next week we'll talk about all the good that NRA does. Time for the mystery document. The rules are simple. If I guess the author of the document incorrectly, I have to divorce my cousin. As if that's ever gonna happen. And then the woman. What? Sure, whatever you say, Miss Anthony. Anyways, during the late 1800s, women are actually oppressing us men from having our beer, from which abortion. God didn't intend for women to murder their own children.
Did you even hear about Roe versus Wade? It established that women have their own reproductive rights and the rights to their own bodies. That trial case.
Well, of course, women need a protection. They are the weaker gender, after all. They could never handle a man's job.
Handle a man's job, please, as if women were all.
Well, of course, women need a protection. They are the weaker gender, after all. They could never handle a man's job.
Handle a man's job, please, as if men couldn't.
Well, of course, women need a protection. They are the weaker gender, after all. They could never handle a man's job.
Handle a what? Yeah, whatever.
Why are you all recording?